Hello, welcome to the first video in our GoJS beginner video series. This video serves as a high-level overview of GoJS. We'll examine the basic building blocks of a GoJS application and how they work together. Using GoJS requires programming in JavaScript and familiarity with HTML and CSS. This video does not have any explicit prerequisite knowledge of GoJS topics. That being said, this video will not broadly cover what GoJS is or what it's used for. For a discussion on that, see our intro video, GoJS in 12 minutes. In understanding the fundamental pieces of GoJS, you'll be well on your way to creating the diagrams and visualizations you need for your applications. The parts of a GoJS diagram, which can be nodes, links, or groups of nodes and links, are visualizations of data that are stored and managed by a model. Models hold data that describe nodes and links, and diagrams act as views to visualize their model's data using actual GoJS node and link objects. As such, GoJS has a model view architecture. To make clear this separation of data versus presentation, have a look at this example. There are two diagrams on the screen. Both diagrams have the same model with the same model data. If I drag a node in one diagram, the model data is updated with the node's new location. Since both diagrams are using the same model data, the view is updated in both. The data in the model are arrays of JavaScript objects. You can add whatever properties you need for your app on these objects in the model. A GoJS diagram is a JavaScript object in memory associated with an HTML div element that has been given an explicit size. Diagram is not a DOM element. A diagram acts as a view. It visualizes its model's data using GoJS node and link objects. Creating a diagram associated with a particular div element is normally done with a call to go.graphObject.make with the parameters go.diagram and the div element ID. Let's build a diagram. GoJS draws with the HTML5 canvas, so we'll start with a blank HTML5 document. Add a script element that loads the GoJS library. We'll also create an init function that will hold all of our GoJS specific code and ensure it only runs once the body of the document has been loaded. We'll store the function go.graphObject.make in a variable represented by a $sign for the sake of convenience. To build our diagram, we add a div element with an explicit size and ID in the page body, and then call go.graphObject.make with parameters go.diagram and the ID of our div element. Now this is actually enough for a diagram to be created. Have a look. However, since the diagram's model has no data, the diagram has nothing to visualize, so it's empty. Let's give our diagram a model. Models hold JavaScript data objects, not GoJS nodes or links. The data objects will be visualized later by the diagram as GoJS nodes and links. Constructing the model is similar to how we constructed the diagram, except this time we just pass go.model as the first and only parameter. Let's construct a model and set it to myDiagram.model. First, we'll give it some data. The default model only supports one data array called nodeDataArray. Let's set it to hold 5 JavaScript objects, each only with one data property called key. This property acts as an identifier for each node. Let's load the page and see what happened. Each JavaScript object we gave the model is rendered as a GoJS node. By default, the node appears as text showing the value of its key property in model data. This isn't much to look at, but know that GoJS parts can be arbitrarily complex. For more discussion on this, see our Building Parts videos or read the intro pages at gojs.net. We can already do a lot within our diagram. This functionality is granted through the many tool classes GoJS has, as well as the command handler class. For instance, we can click nodes to select them and drag them around. These behaviors are supported by the click selecting tool and the dragging tool respectively. Similarly, you can delete nodes with the delete key or use Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V to copy and paste nodes. These behaviors are supported by the command handler class. GoJS tool and command handler methods can be overridden, and tools can be extended to create new subclasses, allowing for unique development requirements to be met. The implementation of such extension is outside the scope of this video, but for those curious, see our intro page, Extensions, on gojs.net. We may want links in our diagram as well. The default model does not have support for link data, so we need to choose one of the other two kinds of model, either the graph links model or the tree model. A full discussion of model types can be found in our beginner video, the diagram model. For now, let's use a graph links model. Change the parameter in our model's constructor from go.model to go.graphlinksModel. This will allow us to specify link data in the model in the property linkDataArray. In the linkDataArray, each JavaScript object represents a link between the nodes in the nodeDataArray whose keys correspond with the values you set for the links to and from data properties. Let's add a link between our first two nodes by specifying their keys as the to and from data properties in this JavaScript object. Now reload the page. The diagram saw this data in the model's linkDataArray and rendered a GoJS link between two nodes. This is the default link in GoJS, a line with an arrowhead pointing to the node specified by the link's to model data property. As a link is a GoJS part, it can be arbitrarily complex. Again, a full discussion on styling parts can be found in our Building Parts video series. GoJS supports several kinds of layouts. A layout can be applied to a diagram or group, which is a special kind of node that holds other nodes and links. Each layout arranges its element's nodes according to what kind of layout it is. For example, grid layout will arrange all its elements' nodes in a grid. For this example, let's use circular layout, which will arrange the nodes in our diagram in a circle. Define myDiagram.layout as an instance of go.circularLayout, which is created with go.graphObject.make, just the same as our diagram and model. Now, if we load the page, we can see all our nodes in the diagram have been arranged in a circle. GoJS supports many kinds of layouts, and each layout has various properties that can be edited to fulfill your requirements. For more information, see the Layouts intro page on gojs.net. So, in review, GoJS has a model view architecture wherein the model stores simple JavaScript objects representing nodes and links, and the diagram acts as the view that visualizes these simple objects using actual instances of GoJS node and link classes. GoJS interaction is controlled by various tool classes and the command handler, whose behaviors can be extended or overridden. And finally, layouts can be applied to diagrams or groups to arrange their constituent nodes in various ways. That's it for this video. To read more about this, visit our Basics intro page on gojs.net. The next recommended video is Building Parts with GoJS, Parts and Panels. It serves as a ground-up introduction to creating arbitrarily complex parts such as nodes and links. Alternatively, you could watch the diagram model, which goes into more depth about various kinds of GoJS models and how they are used to store simple data that's later visualized in the diagram. Head over to gojs.net to see hundreds of samples, read more about GoJS features on the intro pages, or peruse the full API documentation. Sign up for an unlimited free trial, and you'll get 30 days of developer-to-developer support for free.